What's up, everyone? Welcome to Google Ads Part 2, setting up and executing a successful low-budget campaign. And when I say low budget, I'm talking about you're probably spending less than 10K a month on Google Ads, thereabouts. So I'm Matthew Chanel. You know me, Gorilla76, Director of Client Strategy. The person I really want to introduce today is Aaron Weeks, who is one of our strategists at Gorilla76, and he is our resident Google Ads and SEO, for that matter, expert and guru. Aaron, I'm going to kind of let you really quickly talk about your background and how you kind of got to this point in Google Ads, and then I'm gonna kick the agenda off, and then we're gonna start running. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a real brief, concise explanation of my history here. But I started at Caterpillar global headquarters, and my experience with Google Ads is really on the sidelines. But I got to learn a lot from industry experts there. And then when I transitioned into an agency that I was working for in the last 4 years, we mainly focus in the aviation sector, but I really got to get myself hands-on doing a lot of Google Ads for a lot of different types of customers, as far as B2B customers in the aviation space, even OEMs, even e-commerce Google Ads. So, I'm bringing that experience here today, kind of things I've learned through failure, and hopefully I can share that information to help you, so you're not making the same mistakes and you're having Google Ad campaigns that are impactful.
Right. So real quick, we're going to go over, this is the agenda. We're going to start with just strategy. And when I say strategy, I mean really specifically understanding your funnel and the economics of your business and how that pertains to Google Ads, because you obviously want to make sure your Google Ads are profitable. Otherwise, there's no point in doing them. Then we'll go into what keywords to target, high intent, low intent versus high intent keywords. There is a huge difference in the match type, the quality of traffic, and for that matter, the landing page experience that goes with that. Things you may not know that can save you big. I mean, I think really a lot of the cost savings for Google Ads is in the settings area of your Google Ads manager, and not necessarily in what keywords to cut. Dedicated landing page best practices. We have learned a ton on that over the last 6 months. And I'm going to walk you through what to do with that. Testing and experimentation, which Aaron knows a lot about. And then we'll get into a question that a lot of people ask, which is like, okay, I've launched my campaign. Now what the heck do I do on a daily, weekly, monthly sort of maintenance sort of area? And so we'll kind of walk through KPIs and some recs and things that you should be looking at in that regard. So let me first start at strategizing your Google Ads campaign. And so I think one of the things that you want to look at is, you get a budget at the beginning of the year, and it's like, okay, Aaron, here's your advertising budget. Now, how much do you want to split between Google Ads and paid social and magazine ads if you do that, and display, programmatic advertising, which I think is a waste of money. But you should really be starting at revenue and then working your way back, figure out your KPIs, and then understand how your funnel works. And so for me, I would start by just know, and for some of you, you have multiple products within your product line. Some of you just sell one service, but figure out either by product category or by your specific product, what's the average price of that product? And then even more importantly than that, you need to figure out your gross margin. So how profitable is it for your company when you sell that product? And then figure out your funnel from there. So go back into your kind of historical database, figure out how many leads on Google are you going to need to gain a customer? Because just because you get 10 conversions on Google Ads doesn't mean you're going to automatically convert 10% of those people. You need to actually work back through your CRM, figure out the economics of that, and then determine what's the average cost of lead needed to be profitable. And so this example on the bottom, to me, is a good example to walk through for yourself. So if you sell a product that's $50,000 with a 40% margin, you get 20K on that sale. Great. So if you're converting at an average of 1%, that means 1 out of every 100 leads becomes a customer, especially if you're talking about a paid channel or a direct attribute or a direct channel on your website. And so you'll need 100 leads by Google Ads to produce a customer based on your funnel metrics. Maybe it'll be a little more, maybe a little less, but on average, that'll be what it comes out to. And so, if you have a $100 target cost per acquisition, that's going to cost you $10,000 to acquire the customer. So that's $10,000 profit. So that's worth it for you. But, to me, strategizing your Google Ads is first starting at the revenue standpoint, working your way back, and then figuring out kind of how those numbers work. And so that's what I would do to start. And then from there, I would figure out, okay, we need this amount of money on Google Ads to be successful. And I need to hit this target cost per acquisition cost in order to make the numbers work for me. And so that's just a starting point. From there, it gets into strategy and execution, but just understanding at a high level, so you can go to your board, you can go to your sales director or your CEO and tell him why you need this amount of money, because of this is how my funnel metrics work. This is really important for you to securing, going from like $2,000 a month in Google Ads to getting $8,000 a month to do Google Ads. Because if you understand profit margin and how it impacts down to revenue, it gives you a good business case in order to secure the budget you want. All right. So with that, Aaron, I'm going to hand it to you. And now I want you to go through a little bit strategizing the campaign after understanding those funnel metrics. Okay. You and your Paisley shirt now have the stage.
Thank you, Matt. I did want to emphasize what you just pointed out. That why you're doing what you're doing is going to be so important as we talk about these other aspects of setting up a campaign the right way. It's just understanding, again, what your high level goals are. So we're not caught up into the KPIs, right? We really want to know if we're making revenue and we're closing leads. And that's what I want you to achieve with your Google Ads. So let's kind of start with, again, this question of, when I'm starting a campaign, what keyword should I target? I think this can be the most overwhelming question, because there's so many avenues where you can take it. But I always like to start with what I know. And here's the first two places. I put Google Search Console first, mainly because some people, they don't have historical Google Ads data. But if you don't have historical Google Ads data, I think Search Console is excellent. You can look at real world search queries, see what's actually coming in on your site, and then kind of just start to highlight some of those keywords that are high performing on an organic level. They're probably going to be high performing on a paid level too. And then, yeah, certainly if you have historical Google Ads data, I would look through what has worked in the past, dive into things like, cost per acquisition, are these keywords getting leads, and start to evaluate, what was a high performing keyword and add it to your list. Now, once you start with what you know, you're going to want to do some more reconnaissance. Our first bullet here, we at Gorilla, we have a lot of tools to do this kind of keyword reconnaissance. You may not. I think a lot of these, you can do some free searches. I know, for instance, SpyFu, I think you can look up 500 keywords. Again, it's just a baseline to give you more information to make these decisions. And then say if you don't have a keyword tool, next best place, just go to Google, start searching. Search for keywords that you think resonate, or search for your competitor's brand on Google and see what comes up. See what ads are coming up. Are they good ads? Are they bad ads? See what other organic links are coming up. Start to understand the relevance of what you're trying to do. Another great tool that's available to everyone is that People Also Ask box of questions. So anytime you look up something on Google, it's right there. You can pop it open. It's already a list of aggregated things that people are searching for. That's a great place to start to collect ideas and add them to your campaign, because it's like you already know that people are searching on Google and Google is telling you that they aren't.
Yeah, one thing I like about the People Also Ask, or like the PAA box, is like the more of those you click on, the more options Google will show you, because they'll basically just start expanding upon that feature for them. So you'll get to see even more of what people search for that may or may not be relevant for you. One thing to look at with your competitors' ads, if you do a little bit of secret shopping or anything like that, which I would recommend honestly doing, like just go secret shop and go click through, look at their landing page experience and ask yourself, like, did that fit what I was looking for when I clicked through on that ad, or was it not? And then think about that in terms of the landing page experience that you would want to create when people were to click through on yours. Dennis asked a quick question. By the way, y'all, I say this every webinar. I will continue to say it. I want your questions. Please drop them in the chat panel, and I want to answer them. So drop them. Dennis asked, if your sales cycle is 12 months, are you spending $120K to find out if it's working? The answer to that is no. Yes, your sales cycle is probably going to be longer, but you should probably know within 2 to 3 months whether your Google Ads is actually working. It's going to be a lot more qualitative in the beginning. You'll see people convert. It'll go to your sales team, or if you really want to find out, go call those people yourself and see if they're genuinely interested and fit your ideal customer profile for your product. And so use that qualitative data to figure out, are the right people converting that actually, have a need, fit people I want to sell to, work in it's a B2B context instead of a B2C. And then if you can get that qualitative data, and as long as your metrics are good, like your cost per acquisition is at an acceptable level, at least within 2 to 3 months, you can be confident that come 12 months down the road, when your sales cycle actually usually hits, you should start seeing that return on investment in terms of, sales actually closing. So I would say within 2 to 3 months, you should know if Google Ads is working. And then within 9 to 12 months, you should really know if it's working because it's translating into revenue. But you're looking qualitative a lot in the beginning in terms of the quality of the lead. And then also obviously looking quantitatively if your metrics are working in relation to how you had done it previously. Anything you want to add to that, Aaron?
No, that sounds good to me. Yeah, I just want to recap on this keyword reconnaissance. I think the best place to look is go on Google and start searching for stuff. I think with marketers, we kind of avoid clicking on ads, but I think that's the best experience to do it because we're going to start to learn how your competitors are doing it or how that experience is. And my last bullet I had on there before we get to these slides. Google Ads Keyword Planner is way more robust than it used to be. If you haven't used it in a year or two, I think it's way more impactful. And we'll kind of go through that. But you can go to the next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just grabbed a real not very explanatory slide from Google Search Console, but what I wanted to show is, I think this is one of your best resources. Go look at queries that are happening on your site now, because that means that you have content to speak to those queries, and that's why people are coming to your site. So it's a good place to probably target keywords because you already have the content that exists. So you can take that many different ways, but I would pull a big data set, maybe like 18 months, and then evaluate your organic keywords, probably from click-through rate and whatever other metrics that matter to you. Go to next slide. Yeah, so now in these next couple of slides, I want to show Keyword Planner. Again, it's gotten so much better, but this experience that anyone can do in Google Ads is you can discover new keywords and get search volume and forecast. The search volume and forecast was really not available till about a year or two ago. So now that we have it, it's pretty awesome. Go to the next slide.
It was a really bad tool a couple of years ago. It
was a really, really bad tool, and I would never recommend anyone use it. But now it's much better. And so how to make this actionable, it's, go test it out yourself. If you have a Google Ads account, go in here and plug in your website. If you're like me, sometimes I just want to see what Google has to offer. So, go plug in your website, hit get results. Go to the next slide, Matt.
Yep.
Yeah, so, and then this is the experience now. You get a very big list with some other different kind of metrics as far as how much you have to pay to get on the top of the page. Competition level, I'll take that with a grain of salt. I would use some of your other keyword tools to kind of figure that out. But this is just, a way more robust tool to start to get some ideas, and then you can kind of streamline, add them to an ad group that you want to test. From this menu, you can even put them in as broad match, exact match, whatever kind of keyword things and ideas you want to collect. You can now do this through the tool where before it just was not this intuitive. Go to the next slide. All right, so this is probably why I think this tool is so much more impactful than it used to be. So now that you can go collect your ideas, you can go test your theories, put them in a list. Well, now you get some forecast data. So say if you want to change a variable, I want to know how much clicks and impressions I'll get if I up my budget by twice the amount, right? So now I want to spend 60 average daily budget. Well, we'll get some feedback as far as what kind of metrics you can get. That's a much better experience than it used to be. Before, we were all using our own formulas to figure that stuff out. Now we're getting it straight from Google. Is it accurate? We'll figure that out as we go along. But I think this will just give you some good ideas of how to go moving forward.
All right, this is a big deal here, low intent versus high intent keywords, because this is where you waste a lot of money versus actually drive conversions on your website that turn into revenue down the road. So go ahead and get started on this.
Definitely. So I'll say in the demand gen program we run here, we're going to probably focus more on high intent keywords, but I'll start with low intent keywords because I think they can still work depending on what you're doing. I just want you to really understand the difference between the two. And I think as marketers, and we all kind of know this, but it's good to articulate it, is your low intent keywords, they're those top of funnel keywords. They are search queries that land to content at the awareness stage, such as a white paper or more awareness content, a how-to page content. So you really want to target those keywords if the search intent is to learn, to educate, to review a white paper. In some of those keyword string examples are, what is, how to, learn about. You kind of see those patterns as you start searching more, but those are low intent keywords. Doesn't mean that they're bad keywords, but it just may not meet the objective that you want, which is more revenue and to close opportunities. So that's kind of why, again, we're going to probably push you to those high intent keywords. It's keywords that, when searchers search, they're in a buying mode. They're ready to buy. So they're targeting the bottom of the funnel. Maybe they want to see a demo. They want to talk to sales now and fill out, request a quote form. Or, they want to buy a product if you're an e-commerce site. And yeah, so some of those keyword string examples, you see them all the time is buy, near me, if you're looking for a physical location for a product.
Cost
Yeah,
is another one. Yeah. Or price. For people here who sell like certain products or services, like modify string examples like companies or manufacturers. So like, welding equipment manufacturers or permanent mold metal casting services, USA, like things that are corporations or things like that. Those are all high intent keywords where they're very clearly looking for a certain company at that point in time. And you want to make sure that you're, ranking high. I would say on the low intent stuff, Aaron, also, that's where the people also ask box is going to give you a lot of good query examples. And I don't know, like my feeling on this, and you tell me how you feel. I'd almost break low intent and high intent into separate campaigns for myself, just so I can make sure I'm costing that effectively and have a certain, ad copy. And then obviously I'm probably not making custom landing pages necessarily for low intent keywords. I'm probably going to specific content I've already made that has like an organic intent behind it. And it's probably to like the most valuable ones that I have. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great point. I think with low intent, again, I want to stress they're not bad keywords,
No.
but what we're saying is you probably already have content that exists that answers that question. So yeah, it should be its own campaign. Later on in this presentation, we'll get to like landing page best practices, but like you want a landing page for your high intent keywords so you can, when someone is ready to buy, they can convert quickly and we make it easy for them to convert. Again, low intent keywords, yeah, try a campaign with it. See what it does, what metrics you get. Again, you're going to hear from us is like test things, get some data back, get some feedback back, and then make some action.
Let me ask another question. Does low intent also mean lower cost? Are you purposefully bidding less for those keywords because of the lack of intent if you were to go that route with any of your ad spend?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, I think they probably will be lower costs just because you already have good content for it. You definitely don't want to pay a lot for those keywords because it's people who are not ready to buy right now. So you probably want to kind of target a lower cost per acquisition.
Yeah, I would agree. I think also you're probably using like broad match with a lot of those keywords because as you go up sort of in specificity, so phrase match is going to be more expensive than broad match and exact match is going to be more expensive than phrase match is going to be more expensive than broad match. So your match type actually dictates your price. Your cost per click is going to be higher the more exacting you are with your keywords, which is why low intent usually to me would also translate to broad match as well. All right. So do I want to back out and why don't you kind of present this real quick? Then I'll break out the spreadsheet.
Oh yeah. So recap what we just learned. You just did some reconnaissance for your keywords. You looked at Google Search Console to see what queries come to your site organically. Now you have all these CSV files, a bunch of keywords that are 500 rows long. And you're like, what do I do with them? Well, that's kind of why we've come up with this exercise to kind of help you articulate why you're targeting the keywords you're targeting, and then kind of get a process in place that you can add to your campaign. So that's kind of what we're going to share right now.
All right. So I love the spreadsheet because it's so well organized. Is how to build your first campaign. So walk through this. This is something you brought with us to the company, and it really accelerated getting these campaigns off the ground.
Yeah, totally. So from my experience, again, I was tired of handing my stakeholders a CSV file that was super long, that I was highlighting cells, and it just wasn't very actionable. I think this is a way more actionable process to understanding your keywords you're targeting. So just to kind of explain this example we have for Gorilla that we made is we're breaking it up, just kind of like we just talked about, right? My first row and column, we had the historical keywords we got from Google Ads. So we looked in our Google Ads campaign, we kind of saw what worked. We threw them in there, kind of what match type we bid them on. And then what I like to put again is like remind myself, is this a low intent keyword or is this a high intent keyword? Next column, competitor keywords. Again, we have tools like SEMrush to kind of see what our competitors are bidding on. And then we kind of throw those keywords in this bucket here and then kind of evaluate them. Why I wanted to show you this list is because sometimes you'll kind of notice that your competitors are, for whatever reason, not bidding efficiently, or you're not really sure what they're doing, right? So here's one that I crossed out, internal marketing in the hotel industry. Again, maybe relevant to our competitor we were looking at, but not relevant to us. So that competitor keywords column is, again, just a place to kind of start to aggregate the keywords that your competitors bid on and then kind of evaluate the relevant to you. In the next column, go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. No, go what you're going to say. I was just going to add real quick. Your competitors are probably bidding on a lot of garbage, and that doesn't mean you need to bid on that garbage also. So look at it with a very fine-tooth comb, figure out exactly what your competitor is bidding on that you want to win over them on, and then target those keywords. Don't think just because they're bidding on it, it's a great idea for you. That's a good way to lose money. And I promise you, your competitors are probably not doing that great of a job with their Google Ads campaigns.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why, again, we're always going to preach, know your customers, not your competitors. I think this is just good extra information to have, kind of what your competitors are doing. But the most likely outcome is your campaign is just going to be better than theirs if you follow this process. So the third column is the seed keyword list. Basically, just grab some top keywords from Google Search Console that perform well. And that's kind of what we did here with us. And, a lot of this stuff, at least for Gorilla, it is low intent content, which again, doesn't mean it's bad, but maybe it's not something we want to bid on. But that's kind of how we're evaluating that column. And then, add yourself a column for negative keywords, start throwing negative keywords in there to kind of weed out those keywords where you don't want to serve your ad. For us, we don't really necessarily want to serve our ads to B2C customers because we're a B2B marketing agency, I'm sorry. And then Gorilla Group is another agency that is not like us, but I know they come up for our searches sometimes. So that's another example there.
Yeah, and you always want to do phrase match with that usually, just because when that keyword exists in that phrase, it's going to take out that query. So like match type matters in your negative keywords just as much as it does the keywords you want to bid on. So putting a broad match may be too prohibitive for you, and exact match is obviously just going to be, it has to be that exact term with that exact query. So just another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, and then the last two columns real quick. Again, just some examples of an intent keywords, high intent keywords, just to remind myself, can I find any variations of my keywords like I have in that column? And then the last column, I just threw some resources in there for myself just to reiterate how Google Ads match types work, or any information I need to know to really evaluate these keywords. So that's kind of how we do this exercise. We do have a public spreadsheet that.
Hold on. Zoom is blocking this for me 1 second. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you want to do this exercise for yourself, we'll link this in the presentation and share with everyone. Create a duplicate copy for yourself and try it out, and then let us know. Let us know and give us some feedback. Sorry. And then, that's all we have for that.
Yeah.
If you want to go to back to the presentation.
I got a quick question from Ryan, and I saw Allison and Craig. Yes, the spreadsheet will go to you as part of the slide deck. You will be able to access it, copy it, use it for yourself. So yes, this template is yours. If you want, we can even make a view copy of this thing so you can kind of see what it looks like. Not a problem. Yeah, I'll link it in the chat really quickly here. Ryan has a quick question that I wanted to get to, Aaron. It's a good question. When you have a brand new campaign you're starting, what bidding strategy do you recommend? And can you answer that while I link these spreadsheets in the chat?
Yeah, again, I think it depends to your your objective, right? If you want leads, you're probably going to want maximize conversion bidding strategy. If you just want to get your customer to a page that matters, you probably want to maximize clicks bidding strategy. Again, I would just kind of evaluate what you're trying to achieve and then work backwards with what bidding strategy works best. I would avoid, we're not talking about display, but I think the impressions bidding strategy, I would avoid that. I think for what we're all trying to achieve, impressions are great, but we can do brand awareness in other channels like YouTube, right? We don't necessarily need to do it for search.
Another question real quick from Rhonda. Any suggestions for fending off competitors who bid on your company and brand name in their ads? They don't serve up the keywords in their Google ads, so Google won't take action. Their ad scores are low. She's presuming, but I can tell you safely they are. But prospects who know that don't care. Unfortunately, my only suggestion, Rhonda, is to actually bid on your own brand name, which I know sounds sacrilege, but if you bid on your own brand name, you'll probably pay like 40% of the cost that your competitor is paying for, and you will definitely be the first result. So that's kind of that would be my suggestion. Aaron, do you have a better suggestion than that?
I've done both for my clients. I completely agree. It's an unfortunate situation, but the fact is, if you bid on your own brand name, you're going to win that top of page every time, and you're probably going to pay a lot less than your competitor is. You're not going to be able to stop your competitor from having a manual cost per click that's outrageous just to land on top of page on your search query. But what I will say is, as long as you have the best content and you're reaching your customers, then just let them do that, right? They're never going to beat you on all the organic listings, but they may get the top spot.
All right, let's hop back in this Prezo. Let's see. All right, so you want to walk through this about what you might not know can save you big, or wait, this is slide 13. I think it's the one I'm supposed to take it over, right? Sorry. Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, I got it. All right, so this is stuff that this is things that you can figure out within your Google campaign settings, Google Ads campaign settings. And essentially it's just ways that can save you a lot of money, because there's a lot of people that crawl or spam you, which I'm sure everyone has seen. It's unavoidable, but you can filter it out and limit some of it. First off, you can do that by filtering out IP addresses. At a minimum, you should do that for your company IP and then any remote employees you may have. If you want to know how to find your IP address, simply Google what is my IP address in the location that you are, and then you will see your IP address and you can filter it out. And then one of my favorite things to do is bid adjustments within my campaign settings, because like bid adjustments can really, really give you a lot of good insights. And so one thing for me that I figured out really quickly is devices. Way more people convert on their desktop than they do on your mobile phone. And so if you should be bidding up on desktop and bidding down on mobile, just to make sure that, if you're going for form conversions, that you're going to prioritize people who are coming in through your desktop. Day and time matter a lot. When you're running ads for a few months, you'll notice trends on people converting certain days and certain times a day. Optimize for that by basically bidding up on it, and then maybe bidding down a little on weekends or something like that. Demographics, you should always be turning off 18 to 24, in my opinion, unless you're selling specifically to that target audience. But other than that, I think it's a waste of your ad time. Bob has his hand raised. Bob, do you have a question? You can type it in the chat and we can definitely get to it. And then geo-targeting and geofencing, which basically means target location results. Let's go through each of these with some more examples. So if you look on Google Ads in your settings right here, you can, filter out countries and then make sure that people from like China or India or Pakistan, or I've had people from like Bosnia coming in to my Google Ads. When my company's, my clients in Indiana, they're never going to make metal casting products for a company in Bosnia. So when that happens, just simply filter that out. You can use a heat map tool like Lucky Orange, which we use in order to figure out where people are coming from. And that'll give you a good idea of like where to filter countries out and where not to. You should, at a minimum, unless you sell in India, probably be filtering India out, because India will give you a lot of bad of like kind of bot crawlers and stuff like that. Location targeting I also like a lot. If you can see kind of areas where you're doing particularly well in, bid up on it, make sure that you're optimizing for that. It's just a good thing to see, especially where there's like little hot spots in the country, like if you sell in the Rust Belt, for instance, or in the Gulf Coast region, probably a good place where you can prioritize your spending and spend a little more there, or just reallocate budget there appropriately. You can also do that sometimes by just creating a separate campaign for that geographic area, so you can put more dedicated budget there without doing that. But you can also do it within the locations feature of Google Ads, which I find useful. Again, you can take a look there. That's kind of a little bit more broad on a country level. Demographic target. Go ahead, jump in.
Can I share something? And if you can go back 2 slides on the locations. Okay, this is something. Go one more back.
Yeah.
This is something super duper important if you actually want to do location targeting. If you go in your settings and you see location options, you see target, there's 3 options there. So this is where I want people to evaluate. Is the recommended default option is people regularly in, or who've shown interest in your targeted locations. So you don't physically have to be in your location. So is that something you want to do with your campaign? Probably not. So you probably want to select that second option that says presence. So you're really actually doing true location targeting. Your ads are only served to the people in those states or United States that you've selected. So that was just an important feature I just want to make sure everyone knows about.
Yeah, thanks. I blew right past that and actually didn't mention that, so appreciate that. All right, let's go back through demographic targeting. You should be turning off 18 to 24 across the board. If you know your ICP really well, Bob, I see your question. You may miss this typical conversion rate for industrial PPC. Yours is around 5%. Okay, 5% is pretty dang good, all told, from our experience. But I don't. We're not actually doing data on that right now, at least in this presentation. But something I can definitely give you offline when we send the deck out, and I can look at what we've been doing historically. If you know if you know your audience and the age groups you typically sell to, you can just increase that bid 15, 10, 20%. If you typically sell in the 45 to 54 range or 35 to 54 range, it's a really good idea to optimize again for that. If you know that's where most of your buyers are at, bid it up, do what you need to do. Filtering out IPs, which we mentioned, you do that under the settings and IP exclusions, simple copy paste, and then those IPs will not show up in your in your search queries. You want to do that at the account level, probably. Whenever you do that, that would be the same probably if you were doing, that would be the same if you were going to do locations and stuff like that as well. Okay. Now again to one of my favorite topics about PPC, which is dedicated landing pages, because I cannot tell you how many companies I see who do PPC and then they immediately take you to their homepage, and it's a complete waste of time in relation to the search query. I'm going to tell you when you should actually be taking people to your homepage when you're running Google PPC, only when they are searching for your company and you want to make sure they go to your company. So if they're searching for Gorilla 76, yes, I want them to go to my homepage. But if they're searching for industrial marketing agency or B2B industrial marketing services, I probably want them to actually go to a dedicated page that's meant to convert. Like it's basically a sales letter. And so you remember our webinar landing pages that convert or that sell? This is basically that premise. If you're going to run competitor search, so Rhonda, you mentioned this, if you really want to go stick it to your competitor, go write a competitor comparison and then go target their keyword and then make them go to and then bring people to that competitor comparison page. I wouldn't trash them on that page, but like if you write a really good competitor comparison and then take them right to that page, that would be that's a pretty good landing page experience to do on a competitor keyword. Well, the first thing is when you're not sold on competitor comparisons, remember if you're only making this for PPC purposes, they're only going to see it when they're searching that competitor. So it's not like it's something that is going to sit there on your website to be easily found. It's really just going to be people who are not searching for you, but instead searching for someone that you don't want them to buy from. So that's how I would convince her. Is just like, I'm only making this for people who are literally searching for our competitor and are not searching for us. And so we can either give them the option to look at us with a competitor comparison, or we can just let them freely go to our competitor and not even try to battle for that business. That would be my convincing argument. Maybe she wouldn't be sold on it, but that would be the business case that I would make. So brand and competitor, you're doing a couple different things on the landing pages. Otherwise, you're going to create non-visible dedicated landing pages by ad group. Why are you doing that? A bunch of reasons. My biggest reasons are simply it's going to improve your quality score, your user experience, the likelihood of conversion, and analysis is way easier in your Google Analytics and your heat map tools. And so those 4 reasons to me make it a very easy reason to make a dedicated landing page by ad groups. Let me show you what that looks like, because we've done that for a couple of our clients. So the first thing that you're going to see as a feature of the dedicated PPC landing page is the freaking form is right there. You guys may think this is like a contact us page. It's not. A contact us page does not have content below the fold. And so a dedicated PPC landing page is your big hairy value proposition. And then, a little bit of text about kind of like, who you do, what you do it for, a little bit of social proof if you have it. And then the conversion point right there, like have the form front and center on the landing page so they don't have to think about, well, if I want to talk to someone, what should I do at this point? Make it stupid easy for them to convert. And then what's going to separate this from your normal contact us or request a quote page is you're going to have more info, more content below it, so they can literally sell themselves or convince themselves on what you guys sell or do. So a little bit about, key features, we've been there when it comes to doing things in your industry, and then a little bit about each of your unique sub value propositions. And so this is, to me, is a really, really good route to go for your landing pages. And you should be, again, making this by ad groups. So if you have 4 ad groups, if you have one around metal casting foundries, and if you have one around aluminum metal casting, then you're changing the language up on each of the areas of the website to talk about your experience as a foundry, who you are as a foundry, how long you've been a foundry for. And then if you're doing aluminum casting, you're talking about your aluminum casting services. What makes your aluminum casting service unique? What aluminum do you use in aluminum casting services? So you're basically making each of these pages like super contextual in order to do this. And you're making these super contextual in order to make sure that the term they're searching for and the ad group that you're creating the page for, it's going right to that page. So there's no doubt in their mind they're in the right place. So a couple things. I see Ryan. So do I use third-party landing page builders or no? These were built in WordPress, and so we basically made a wireframe of WordPress and built it out. There's nothing wrong with using a third-party landing page builder, such as HubSpot, or there's other landing page builders as well. Lead Pages, I think, is another one. As long as you can connect it to your Google Analytics, because you want to do analysis on it. And we actually didn't put this in the presentation. I wish we did, which was looking downstream at Google Analytics and seeing like kind of what happens once they're kind of in that group. But if you connect your Google Ads to your analytics account, you can actually search and see how long they spent on the page, how many pages they visited per session based on that ad group. And you can even look at conversions there as well if you want, even though you could also look at it in the ad group, but all very useful stuff. Dennis asks, if these are non-visible, would it need to be a different page than you intend to use for organic SEO? The answer is yes. This is a dedicated page for PPC. So I'm a big fan and proponent of making the landing page experience very specific to the channel. And so organic SEO should be longer form content, should be a visible page, should be written blog content, should have the H1s and everything matching up really good. If I were doing a paid social landing page, very short in terms of length, because I recognize that, and we have the data to show this, 90+% of people that go to our landing pages from paid social are on mobile. And so you need to make sure that what you're doing is optimized for your phone. Otherwise, they're going to bounce right out. And so you literally should be able to read it with minimal scroll on your phone to get everything. And so for me with PPC, I want to make sure that the conversion point is stupid simple for them to convert on it, because that's ultimately the goal I have in mind. But there's also enough content there that they're convinced they're in the right place and this company can help them. And so that's my approach to landing pages per channel. I would be super specific based on the channel that's in question.
Matt, there's another question about if my product page has all these, do I still need a dedicated landing page?
If your product page has the form up top, No, it does not. But I would bear in mind, like, I really want people on PPC to convert. So I want to make sure my conversion point, which is my form or my book a call app, which is another whole other thing I would like to talk about in a future webinar, is there and readily present. Like, if they have to click to another page to get there, then the page is not doing its job. If my objective is acquisition and basically conversions. So you can see on the best page practices, I do have the Google Analytics stuff. Awesome. I thought I forgot it. You can take a look really when you have it connected, you can see, okay, so based on device category, and then based on the keyword I'm taking off, so you don't know what keywords I was targeting for this client, but I can see like how many sessions, average page per session, average session duration, and then I can make really good decisions off of that. And so if I see this, I'm looking at time on page, like desktop, 22 seconds, 1 minute, 52 seconds, 43 seconds. It's telling me desktop is definitely a better experience. That's what I should be optimizing for. And so I'm just looking at this data. I'm also looking, frankly, at pages per visit. Desktop 1.48, desktop 2.63, desktop 1.54, desktop, 1.5 pages plus per desktop visit, telling me I should obviously be optimizing for desktop on PPC. So connect this to your ad analytics account, look deep into what's happening once people go to your website, and then recognize how you need to change your bid strategy based on that kind of data. Here's another example. This ad group is cable assemblies. And then the copy is really to hit at the pain point. A couple other things we did in this that were not in the other example was, social proof, which we did here, put a customer quote kind of right there on the bottom, like multi-text never failed to make my connection. And so you can see the ad group's cable assemblies is right there on the H1. You obviously know that you're in the right place. The conversion point is right there. Even on the header, like the header image, get quality cable assemblies quickly at affordable prices, like boom. So there's no doubt about where I'm supposed to be here. This is made to convert for people looking for keywords within my ad group. And so that's why I'm a huge proponent of this. I recommend you all do it. If you can't build a landing page yourself, if you have WordPress or HubSpot, it's worth paying someone a few $100 to create the wireframe for you so you can make as many of these as you need to, which I would recommend doing. All right, Aaron, I'm going to hand it back to you for testing and experimentation.
Totally. I did want to hit one point with the landing page is something we didn't point out, but just makes perfect sense is when you have a dedicated landing page, your attribution is streamlined. You're not digging through all the other stuff that's happening on the page. I can just evaluate the PPC traffic and what it's doing. And that's just going to save you time and save you a more streamlined attribution reporting and all that stuff that's going to help you in your job.
Yep. Great point. Great addition.
All right. So testing and experimentation, the one thing I want you to take out of this slide is like test. You can set it and forget it with Google Ads and you're going to get results. You're going to get metrics. Things are going to happen. But if you have discipline to test and test different things, you're going to learn a lot of stuff quickly. Your campaign's going to be more impactful. So I kind of threw some ideas of what things you could test if you wanted to. So I think I put search ads first because I think this is the one that matters the most. Is like write a bunch of different search ads, test different messaging. If you have different buyer personas, test that messaging. In 15 days, if you're not getting the results that you want, write some new ads. I feel like with the ads themselves, with the search text ads, we kind of write them and let them run. I think that's one area where just continue to write different messaging and test it and then get some feedback. Keyword match types. I think this is maybe where Matt and I disagree, and that's okay. And to me, I think it's okay to run all broad match keywords and then compare them against all exact match keywords. Here's the reason why. You're going to learn a lot. If you run all broad match keywords, you're going to get a lot of search queries quickly, and then you can start to eliminate very quickly. I think often with searching, humanity, we're weird, right? We can think about how people search, but it's often much different than what we really think. So broad match is a great way to get as many search queries as possible, and then kind of add them to your negative keyword list. So just testing different keyword match types is a great option. Ad groups, I think, Matt, you kind of have already hit on it really, but it's like, if you have different ad groups, test different things, like, test a different landing page, PPC landing page. maybe try different messaging per ad group. In your cable wire example, it's like you want to have different messaging than the wire harness example, right?
Yeah,
so just evaluate your ad groups and make sure you don't have one boilerplate search ad that answers them all. Get specific and reach that customer the way they want to hear that message. Audiences, this is probably a feature we could probably spend a lot on, but there's audience targeting available in Google Ads. It's going to help you narrow your campaign. But I think what we often forget is you can turn those audiences on an observation level, meaning you can add an audience to your campaign and just collect data, but it won't narrow your ads. That's just a great tool because you can start to add, an engineering audience on your search campaign, get some feedback of how they're interacting with your ad. And then later on, if you want to narrow down to just that audience searching for your keywords and seeing your ads, you can do that. Then the last bullet on here is there's actually an A/B testing feature in Google Ads I don't think a lot of people are aware of. And that's just a great way to test all these things I just mentioned above here and split them between your campaign you have running now, and you can run an experiment side by side and see how they're performing differently. And we got a couple of screenshots of that, I think.
Let's go.
Yeah, so again, you can start a campaign, you can create a campaign experiment. You can split different things of, hey, I want to split my budget 50-50. And then you can start adding different parameters, right? Probably a good test would be I have completely different messages and different targeting in this test, and I keep my campaign the same and see how they perform in 15 days to kind of make some insight and some action. Go to the next slide, I think.
Yep.
Okay, and here was another test that you can do that I think, again, people just aren't familiar with is you can change your attribution. Here's one example that I normally do is with my keywords, I want more of a linear attribution than a last click. I want to know how all my keywords are contributing to a conversion. I don't want to just see, someone clicked this keyword the last time, and then I don't have any data on all the other keywords they clicked along the conversion path. So that's why I kind of like to test the linear attribution. So all my keywords get credit for a conversion.
Quick thing, couple of things to add here. I have a question for you. So I'm going to anticipate a question from the audience there because there's a lot of different attribution models. Which one do you recommend and why?
So I think, for keywords for search campaigns, I recommend linear. Now, when you get into display, totally different story. Maybe that's another webinar we do. But for this lesson, I think, stick with last click or linear. A linear, again, is going to give you data on how all your keywords contribute to a conversion path. And that can be powerful, right? Because now you can see what keywords collectively work for a conversion.
I would say time decay is also probably another one that you could use that would be relatively acceptable. That's pretty widely used. One other thing on this page that I want to make note of is your click through conversion window and view through conversion window. I'm going to be selfish here, but you should do 90 days on both and just make sure you don't cheat yourself out of potentially getting attribution on your Google Ads campaigns. Like, I can't tell you how many Google Ads settings I've walked into where the click-through conversion was 30 days and the view-through was 1 day. And it's just like, why are you doing that to yourself? Make it 90 on both. Facebook's, the attribution windows changed dramatically. It's 7 and 1. And then for LinkedIn, it's 90-90 as well. But I would give yourselves 90. Quick question from Lauren. Is the ad given credit in linear attribution if an ad is viewed or only clicked?
So the linear attribution, it just will give your keywords credit. So, I mean, your ads will still count the full conversion. But then when you open up your keywords tab, that's where you'll see the difference of, like, you'll see this keyword has like 0.25 conversion attribution. That's the different experience if you click linear. Sorry, Lauren, I don't know if that answered your question. All right, so we're gonna get into basically, you did all your keyword research, you thought about your revenue goals, you got your campaign set up, you launched it. Now, what do I do?
What? Now what?
Yeah, now what? Now, how do I optimize it? What do I do next? So we kind of broke out a couple different things to talk about, but I think first and foremost, Google has introduced this recommendations feature that's about 2 years old. And it's a great place to kind of introduce you to features that maybe you haven't used, or sometimes they're actually good recommendations and you should apply them. But that's probably number one. When you go into your Google Ads campaign, click the recommendations tab and kind of see what it's suggesting and then evaluate from there.
Yeah, it's surprisingly useful. So one of it is just like, well, first, just like a one is just review your search terms report, which you should probably do on a daily basis. Just takes a few minutes. I have my like little thinker guy there because Google took away full visibility on your search terms reports. So you may look at like what happened yesterday, and then you're looking at kind of the totals, and you're like, huh, that's not quite what Google's telling me in aggregate, but sometimes it's the only data you have available. So that makes it hard for sure. And that's why you got to mix this data with your analytics data a little bit to make good decisions. But yeah, you're definitely using the search terms report to identify new keywords to put in, and then also putting as many negative keywords into your list as possible so you can just get rid of junk that is going to be a cost suck for you. But again, Google's purposely taken visibility and made this opaque. So it's just one of those rules of engagement you're going to have to contend with in order to advertise on Google. Sorry, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I think this is probably where you're going to spend the most time, to be honest, is you run through your search terms report, you look at your search term column, you look for relevance. These are the actual search queries that triggered your ad, right? So some of the keywords are exact match, like the seamless pipe, but that broad match, that's where you start evaluating those keywords. It's like, is that relevant? Is that what I was trying to do? And if it's not, add it to your negative keyword list, because that's how we're going to eliminate waste and make sure that we're bidding efficiently.
Craig asked, are there any negative terms that are on this screen? No, not here. This is an account we've had for a while, so their negative list is pretty well pruned. All right, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so evaluate your match types. Again, we kind of talked about the broad match versus phrase match versus act match. I think there's a point to be made that you can be pretty inefficient if you use all broad match keywords. That's why Matt has the cross out there. But yeah, just be smart about it. Make sure in the first couple of days you have a budget that can work with broad match and that you're not overspending and being inefficient. But get some data back to learn. That's why I think broad match is awesome. So that's a good recommendation for that. Okay, yeah, your point about simply rejecting recommendations will also increase your optimization score. So the recommendations, Google has once said that they would actually count against you if you didn't have a good optimization score. They pulled that back as marketers complained about it. But I think the point is with the recommendations is, try some of them. They're going to be recommendations for features you don't have turned on in your campaign. Test them, see if they work for you. A lot of them are not going to work. If you think they're not relevant, just dismiss them. It's not going to count against you, even though if it looks like it is. And then this, the ultimate goal is like we're getting leads and we're closing opportunities. So, go in your CRM, work backwards. Is my PPC campaign working the way I want it to? Evaluate it that way. Look at your ad group performance. You should have a couple different ad groups. Make sure that, which one is siphoning all the money, right? Is it the one that is providing leads? If it's not, turn that ad group off. I think we had an example like that for a client that we met.
Wire harnesses.
Yeah. Right. And then you evaluate your keywords. Once you start getting leads in, then you can kind of really evaluate, am I paying too much for this keyword? Again, you want that sweet spot, right? With high intent keywords, it's okay if you pay a lot, if that lead is qualified and is going to close as an opportunity. But again, once you get more leads and kind of start making that decision. Ad copy, I think this is where we can spend a lot more time as marketers, and maybe we've gotten away from it. The fact is, like, good ads sell stuff, right? So continue to write ads, messaging, test it, write some more, test it more. Don't be content with just having one search text ad and serving that. Serve a bunch of different ones with different messaging.
Yeah, you'd be shocked which ones resonate.
Yeah, okay. And then landing page performance. This is where you probably want to go into Google Analytics. If you do have that PPC landing page, evaluate some things that Matt pointed out, like what's the average session duration on the page, and those things. if your ads are getting people to the page, but they're not consuming the content on the page, then maybe you need to update the page, right? Not the ad itself. So that'd be something I would think about.
Yeah, it's also it's a good reason to get that heat map data tool, which I'm a huge fan of, because watching a few recordings or looking at aggregate data on a heat map will tell you a lot about where your page is working and where it isn't. So I would highly recommend do that. I would highly recommend that for yourself. Ryan Ashwick, how do you find out about budget strain?
You want to take that one?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. So like, where are you wasting the most spend? I'm guessing. I'm sure Ron will follow. Go ahead and get in the slide, and then we'll jump into that question. I'll get a little more detail.
Yeah, so I think with this slide, we're trying to show like sometimes the recommendations are good and they'll save you money. Probably the keyword recommendations is where you're going to add the most. You can kind of see the differences here of just, maybe you're spending on redundant keywords and you don't need to. So the recommendations will help you take those keywords off your campaign so you can move forward with a more efficient budget.
Oh, cool. And then resources real quick. That's the end of the webinar, guys. Jesus, thank you all so much for coming on. So Ryan, you have a question about budget strain. If you give me a little more detail on that, and I can try to answer that question. I'm assuming you mean about sort of where most of your waste is coming from. Oh, yes. Do you have an opinion on single keyword ad groups? I do have an opinion on that, Kevin. I hate them and I would not recommend it. Managing it is a huge pain, like an enormous pain. And if you ever want to try to like switch your campaign up, it's a lot of manual work. I would usually, when I'm building an ad group, I'm trying to identify anywhere between 4 to 8 keywords I can fit within the ad group based on my research. Yeah. So Allison asked, keywords per ad. I'm usually looking at about 4 to 8 per ad group. Typically, I don't know, Aaron, do you have a different approach to that? I think I've used as many as 10, but it all depends on kind of what Keyword Planner, SEMrush, and those other tools are giving me as potential keywords to even bid on in the first place.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If you have, my cutoff has always been 25. If you have more than 25 keywords in an ad group, you need another ad group because you're probably being too broad and you're not specific enough to what you're trying to achieve. So you might as well create a new ad group and add those other keywords.
Yeah. Okay, Ryan, I got your question. Thank you. So budget strain means yes, one ad group is draining your budget because there's a lot of keyword volume. Yeah. So like we had one client where I'm running like 8 different ad groups for them. And one was just sucking up like 60% of their budget every day. Although it had a lot of conversions because we were using call tracking as well. And so this is like that example, like when someone asks like, how do you know if this is working? Do you have to wait 12 months? I literally, when I had my client call, I was like, you have 5 call conversions here. Are any of these good? Tell me a little bit like what's happening with these call conversions you're getting. Found out they were all junk. And so I was like, this ad group sucks. So I started by bidding it down by 25%. I should have probably done it by 50%. Another week I ran it. Again, a good amount of call conversions. They were all still junk. And we were finally like, okay, 2 weeks. This is not a good ad group. Let's turn it off. And then all of a sudden, everything else started performing a lot better. And so budget strain basically means, yeah, you have a bust somewhere in your strategy because you're essentially letting one ad group drain your budget where it's probably going to give you more lift to get rid of it and let your other ad groups kind of rise at that time. That's kind of what that was the use case that we were specifically doing. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us for this edition of Industrial Marketing Live. Aaron, by the way, y'all would not know this. This is Aaron's first ever webinar ever as a panelist. So Aaron, just, kudos to you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of good comments here on setting up and testing Google Ads as a screen share. Okay. Maybe something we could do for a video in the future, Aaron. And then also display advertising. I think I'm going to lump that in with YouTube as well, Craig, because I kind of want to cover it anyway. So thank you all so much. Our next webinar is on sales enablement for industrial companies. I'm bringing in my friend Natalie Bruce for that. And then June 1st, you guys will want to attend this account-based marketing masterclass with Daniel Engelbretson. Other than Sangren from Terminus, I can't think of a smarter person on ABM than Daniel Engelbretson. If you've ever heard of the company Danaher, which is like the largest medical device company or one of the largest in the US, like Daniel ran ABM for that company. He is an expert on ABM. He's going to walk through this process he walked me through months ago, and you guys, you're going to have your mind blown. So if you have any desire to do account-based marketing in 2021 or even into 2022, be in attendance for that webinar. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for attending. We'll ship the recording and the slide deck tomorrow. I'm Matt. That's Aaron. This is Industrial Marketing Live. We're Gorilla 76. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Later.